In this video we will address the topic, is there also gameness in the animal kingdom, so in the wild animals? And the short answer is yes, but they are hard to find and not many are that. And why is this? Because in nature normally animals are there to survive, and if they don't survive because they have gameness and they want to go on even against opposition that is much stronger, so even if needed to the death, they won't be living long enough to reproduce their genes maximally. So that being said, let's look at some examples. We will talk at least about lions. We will talk about Martin's family, but we also talk about some of the civet cat family. So first start with lions. In the animal kingdom, the male lions are those that have that gameness attribute. And why? The female lions are the best hunters. So how come that those male lions are those that have the gameness trait? Whereas the lioness are the hunters, the male lions are the protectors. So especially if other male lions come and try to take over this group of lions, and oftentimes they also kill the lion whelps, because they don't want to raise other male lions with genes but their own, and that's a big problem for that group. You will be wasting genetic diversity. And those male lions, once they get challenged by another male lion, they will fight, even if that would mean that they would die. And sometimes they even face off with two upcoming male lions that will battle that one lion together. And after that, either be a two male lion group, or one will attack the other again, so only one will remain. Depends a little bit how the situation unfolds. That's an interesting fact. Other very game animals must be the family of martens. Martens, even if you get pet martens like ferrets, they will happily engage with a cat 4 times its weight, which is also a very good predator, or a dog even 10 times its weight is very often the case, but sometimes even attacking herders like Dutch shepherds, Malinois. And of course it would be very easy for such a big dog, for any bigger dog, that's to kill a ferret if they are themselves still very capable. But oftentimes those household pets are already bred to have such a lack of courage that they will have a hard time with a ferret. But so a ferret is a domesticated polecat, and also polecats are known to fight cats, sometimes even venomous snakes, such as how do we say that? I think viper is the best way to describe them. We have European viper, for example. And a similar case could be made for an entirely different family, being that of the civet cats, where they have the mongooses fighting with the big venomous snakes and also killing them. And sometimes also those snakes kill them. So it's a very interesting thing. But let's stay with the marten family. Other very game martens are, for example, the wolverine, that even chases away wolves or bears or even polar bears from their own prey. And it's such a compact gladiator. Other examples are river otters or other otters that even fight and kill small crocodiles, Gameness, or also snakes. Even small anacondas have been killed by them. Other examples are the meager weasel, who can be like 50 to 100 grams and killing rabbits more than 20 times its weight. And yeah, a rabbit is still just a prey, but they will also engage very hard with each other. They will engage rats, and rats are quite capable of killing animals, including their own. For the size, they are quite big, and they will engage a bigger rat and kill it. They are really good, feisty little buggers. And you have a little bit bigger, the ermine, similar traits. Polecats already mentioned, but also there are some martens that are less likely to fight, including tree marten and stone marten, but also you have the fisher marten in the United States, like a smaller wolverine, also very interesting to see. Then we had the civet cats, I already mentioned the mongooses, but also the genet cats, which is a different trait. And fossas are known to be ferocious little fighters. Another example could be made for, and as we didn't address yet, there's another very big cat that is really going, against a very stiff competition, and that could be either the snow leopard, that you will even face off with 4 livestock protection breeds, for example Tibetan Mastiffs, and also the jaguar, which is able to kill anaconda but also crocodile types. But both the snow leopard and also the jaguar are very fierce and also solo fighting big cats, and also sometimes Siberian tigers or Bengal tigers face off with very strong prey, even bears. So also very strong, and also a bear can win from a tiger, of course, but this is not the type of Gameness I was referring to. Another example of the marten family would be the badgers. Badgers are known for many a dog as the ultimate test. Some say that the otter is even a better test, but they are almost extinct everywhere in Europe. But very ferocious, will not back down. But there's an even more ferocious badger. I'm not talking about the American badger, which is a lot more aggressive than the European one, but a lot smaller as well. So therefore the European is often considered as a bigger prey, but also the American marten. The American badger is a very formidable quarry, but there are other examples, especially the honey badger of Africa, which faces off on a regular basis with a very big, strong competition, including lions, panthers, even hyenas and the like. And they also face off with cobras and other very deadly material. They just very able to withstand them, but also they have a don't care attitude. They will just face anything, a little bit like the wolverine, but the badger has a better skin and extremely sharp long claws, also able to dig. They also face off with bee stings, who just doesn't seem to bother them much. They crack open an entire beehive. They are an awesome creature altogether. Well, I hope you like this. I hope you like this video. I'm going to give you also a little bit more of insight that Gameness can be a trait also found in nature. And why could be the big question. In case of lions, it would be easier to explain. If that lion loses his pride, then he will be in big trouble, because he's already old, and it would be very unlikely that he would be overthrowing another male lion from its pride. So he has to hunt for himself and often die. Whereas the honey badger is just such a formidable warrior, and he tends to be surviving also the wolverine. Many of other big creatures will just move away when they see the wolverine, because they already know how much of a warrior they are. Same with honey badger, but it's quite hard to understand why they pick such a formidable quarry. Perhaps because others don't, and they just fill the niche. But it's interesting to conceptualize a little bit more. In addition to the video I just made, is that it is known from weasels, etc., that they almost burn their entire body weight each day. Extreme examples, but also half of their body weight, or like 1/3, because they are that active. And that could be a reason why they are that game. They will approach and attack almost everything. There's even a case known that a weasel attacked a woodpecker. The woodpecker flew away and the weasel was still on it. Have a great day.
Ah!
Ja, zeker. Dat zijn toch roodooid? Nee. Hij zei
gaat maar misschien niet wat.
Roodooid, zei jongens. Dat over de trappen.
Jongens.
Het niet einde, mag maar een beetje inhouden.
Nee. hier, ga weg.
Hey.
Ja, ga eens heen.
Nee, Spijker, stop. Hij kon aardig op zijn achterpoten lopen.
Heb je stiekem goed gedaan?
Ja, zeker, zeker. Dan gaan we met de kinderen mee naar school, hè? Petje achterop en dan de... Ja, de grappen dat ze even groot zijn nu. Zal niet lang zo blijven dan
Nee,
met,
gaat hij toch voorbij?
2 of 3 koppen groter. Ja?
Ja.
Deze springt er zo overheen.
Jackie.
Hey.
Ja, ze springt best wel hoog hoor.
Ja, zeker. Ik had hiervoor een Ierse Stafford. Dat zit een beetje tussen Engels en Amerikaans in
Ja.
qua grootte. En we hadden een kast van 2,20 meter hoog.
Ja.
En een kat. En die kat zat altijd die hond uit te dagen.
Nee, gewoon op de kast.
Ja, dan sprong ze op de kast en ging
Nee,
hij gelijk zich wassen. Hè, van ik ben zo. En ineens zat die hond er bovenop. Was hij
echt
2,20 meter omhoog gesprongen.
Oh, echt?
Dus ze kunnen echt wel wat. Hij springt ook soms wel eens 1,60 meter, 1,80 meter hoog.
Ja.
Dus dat, als hij volwassen is, dan kan ze ook wel hoor.
Ja, dat kan ook. Dat gaat inderdaad. Want
Nu als
die
pup al.
moeder, die sprong ook gewoon zo mega hoog hoor.
Leuk hoor.
Nou, we hadden een tuigje. Ik denk misschien is het dat. Doe dat weer eens af. Ga je gek?
Je ziet de poten zijn ook een stuk breder hè.
Ja.
We gaan nog een stukje verder. Hey! Hey meid! En mooie oogjes. Hey jongen!
Mikey.
Wat is er nog meer voor?
Ik heb nog naar thuis.
Omdat het beetje dat shadow niet gaat zitten. Heb ze dat gezegd?
Alleen lezen ik heb.
Wow, dat is een misselijke man.
Ja, kijk je op.
Rustig Spijker. Ja, ik denk het wel. Dat is ook het formaat hè. Hey jongen!
Dat is het vluchten.
Hij gaat...
Ik denk dat is een mandje en dan op fietsen en dan denk je, oh je snuft te wandelen. Ja, geeft ze snuft
Ja, zeker. En ook als je bijvoorbeeld in de auto zit, je kan hem zelf bij het voeteinde goed leggen.
Het anders breng je halsband om.
Ja, mooi hè? Oh jee. Deze trek je niet kapot hoor. Dat is een Hurricane. Er zit 7 lagen autogordel.
Oh.
Dus dat gaat echt niet. Ook Dyson niet.
Dan zou het wel lekker.
Nee? Ja, zo'n mooie stok.
Niet nog, dat kan sloffen door.
Ja, warm en de bovenkant. Ja.
Nee.
Nee, goed op. Het is gewoon ja.
Julia. Ja, leuk. Maar inderdaad, sturen hier. Ik heb er nog één kolven.
Hé jongen.
Maar dan moet ik gewoon stellen.
Spijker stop. Hey. Ik denk dat hij zijn voeding verdubbelt zo. Ja, denk het ook met die pokel. Hé jongen. Oh? Oh jee.
Ja, maar ik ben ook vreugde aan het tillen. Want er gewoon komt in. En ik ook nog een bellen met de bank. Ja, serieus. Ja, de ene is straat in die jongen, dan ben ik naar de lucht. En dan loopt meneer Gans gewoon goed op de bank. En dan moet je alleen maar lachen worden. Dat word je wel. Maar er waren er ook, ik heb nog er allemaal naar. Ja, eigenlijk meer.
Goed zo, Spijkie. En blijven. In this video we are going to talk about nature. If you listen, you can hear all kinds of beautiful birds. Also sitting there in the tree and flying there. making the most beautiful sounds. But also in nature you have very beautiful sounding birds, but also birds that can be quite a nuisance or a pest. And some will tell you, yeah, they will just clean up and keep animal kingdom healthy. And they can, for example, we have all kinds of birds of prey. We also have birds that act like hyenas by scavenging. But there are also birds that are quite a nuisance also to young animals. And those are especially found in the crow family. So crow, raven, magpie. And those animals are very eager on killing young other animals, for example young birds, but also young rabbits or the likes. And that's the same in the canine kingdom. If you look at the stronger canines, for example wolves, they are quite hell-bent on destroying smaller canines, for example golden jackals, but also coyotes and foxes. And that should also teach you something about what it will do with your pet dogs. So there you can see one of the crow family walking there. And there are more. We call them couches, particularly small, and therefore a little bit less dangerous than, for example, magpie. Also magpie you can find up in the tree. I think there are four magpies there. Now one's flying and the other ones are still in the tree. But if, for example, magpie will destroy smaller birds with ease, especially the young one, but also will prey on as big as a pigeon easily. The same would be the case with wolves, and they are known to be killers of coyotes, foxes, jackals, other wild canines, but also known in places where they still have wolves of killing pets, in particular dogs. So even a guard dog will be shred to pieces by a pack of wolves, but a lone wolf will not attack a guarding dog, a big guarding dog, as easily, because they don't want to be damaged. But people that like wolves are often also the people that like dogs, and they like wolves because they are just a wild dog and they're all natural. But once the wolves get a hold of you, they will bring havoc also on the dog population. All the pets that are not enclosed will be at serious risk. Also pet dogs roaming free, and if you have a pack of wolves, also the humans that carry those pets will have a big problem. Here you see a little crow. And that being said, I do like wolves, I do like dogs, but I would not like them to meet unnecessarily. And if you have a dog that is of a terrier proposition, even as small as this one, he will try to keep the wolf off of you. But of course, a big wolf will decimate a small Patterdale terrier quite fast. They were bred for hunting foxes, and a wolf would also make short work of a fox, for example. Even jackals and coyotes which are often a lot bigger than foxes. Some coyotes are about the size of a small wolf, are often easily killed once they get a hold of them. A coyote can be faster, a fox can be more nimble, but that's it. On the long stretches, the wolves will be more able to even catch coyotes because they have a higher top speed. Coyote could be more nimble like a fox, but also have quite long legs. So on the short bursts they can be faster, changing direction. But on the long hauls, the long legs of the wolf will chase them. And also because wolves work in packs, they will just be closing in. And if a dog and a wolf meet, and the wolf is there to hunt, you will be in big trouble. There might be some dog breeds that can stand toe to toe to a wolf, but almost none, I think none, can stand toe to toe to a pack of wolves. Of course, in those locations they have spiked collars or harnesses, protective harnesses, and that will help tremendously. But you will not be using a spiked collar, especially not a full-blown harness when you're going to walk your dog, I presume. Or you might be in some freaky cosplay. That it might be exactly what you will be doing. So, bottom line, wolves are fantastic, but I think they should be left to non-rural areas. And if you have a country that is very much populated, like the Netherlands, and there are very small regions of solid forest where the wolves could wander, it will be a big trouble, in my opinion. And the other thing is, if you introduce wolves, and they have, and the population goes up very much, you also have to introduce hunting again to predate on the wolves, to keep them in check. And then once you're doing that, why did you take the wolves to begin with? You see the same with the hawks. On a worldwide scale, these European hawks that are also found in Russia and parts of Asia are becoming a pest. They are so well adapted. And of course, when you have wolves, you have something to predate on them. But you'd rather be predating on something easy like those horses or some sheep instead of something sturdy such as hawks and nice horses. The rooster and the chicken, and the guard dog. For example, that guard dog or those chickens or those horses, a wolf will very easily leap those fences, also those fences, and will just get in. Those fences are also not wolf-proof. The wolf is a canine athletic perfection of a big size. And there are things you could do, of course. There are big dogs that you can take. There are livestock protection breeds, and if you keep them in a group of 2 or 3 or more, of course they will be able to keep wolves off. Normally, if the pack is not too big. But on the other hand, you have to feed a big livestock protection dog or 3 of them all the time, only for the risk of wolves occurring. So I can imagine that most farmers don't want to do that at this time point. And the other thing in the Netherlands, also all livestock farmers, their life has been made difficult due to regulations of the government that wants to imply that they have less nitrogen, and that's is especially directed at livestock farmers, to a lesser degree also the crop farmers. But if you do that, you will just move the problem to a different area where you have different livestock, and perhaps, I think, in most cases less efficient, because in farming the Dutch are very good also in making constructions, such as those constructions, as we call them, the dikes, to keep the land safe of the water, but also mechanical solutions to interact with the water. And as such, also in farming, for example, in cheese and dairy products, the Dutch are known to produce the best of the world. And then you just put the problem somewhere else, and then you have the transportation burden as well, adding to the nitrogen output. So this is a thing that really baffles me, but yeah, it's a thing. And then if they already are, so to say, between a rock and a hard place, and you also have to feed an additional 3 big dogs, it's quite costly. And also in the Netherlands, unlike, for example, United States of America, it's not allowed to have firearms for almost all people, including farmers. Whereas in the United States of America, they would just shoot down the predators on sight. This is completely different. But hey, we will see how this fills out on the other hand. It will take quite a while to get to those big numbers, I guess. But if you're living in a forest or near a forest as a farmer, and you see all your livestock decimated, and you get a little bit of the government, but that's also going down and down, because you're expected to handle it yourself then, of course. But I will see a problem arising for those farmers, and I don't like it for them. Have a great day. This video will discuss the interaction between dogs and humans, also on behavioral and psychological level. And why is that? There's a saying in Dutch, so hond zo baas, which would refer to like dog, like a boss or owner of the dog. And it gives you some insight. So very often people search for a dog that fits their taste and also their personality. Sometimes they want a dog to have a presence, strong presence. Other ones like to have a dog that's very social with everyone. Sometimes they want a dog that has very limited exercise, for example a pug, etc. But there's also something else going on. Sometimes people are quite weak, but they want a dog, very big, tough dog often, to fix their problems, because if their dog is so tough, then that big guy must be also tougher than meets the eye. And that's another interesting psychosocial dilemma that's then unfolding for you. So I would be interested if that also suits you, and also your own experiences. Is it that the dogs and owners are very much alike? Or the contrary, Do you find that sometimes very big guys take very small dogs because they don't need a dog to do the talking for them, or the other way around? Very small or weaker humans taking extremely big dogs to compensate? I'm very interested in your personal opinions on this topic. Have a great day. The dog you see here is my Petadel Terrier, a small dog. Protecting your dog. One of my subscribers mentioned that in order to protect your dog, sometimes it could be good to take it slowly. For example, putting it on a leash so that it doesn't chase after a cat or something else. But also, it would be nice to sometimes videotape it. So, for example, if you have a dog that some people classify as a dangerous breed, for example, he had American Bulldogs and now he has an Amstaff, American Staffordshire Terrier, which are very nice breeds, but some people see them as muscular and therefore powerful and therefore dangerous breeds. And then even if some other breed that is at least a size and that's walking without leash and attacking your dog will be the bad guy. And then they say, yeah, my dog does nothing, don't worry, and then they attack your dog. And he said, if you have a body cam, you can prove what the real situation was and thereby also helping your dog, because you set back the things that are not right and you go back to the truth again, and the truth sets us free. And in this case, the dog, I don't know what he's doing, he was smelling something and I pulled his leash and then he was done with it and wanted to take a leap to Marcus territory. And by videotaping it, you can save even its life. Sometimes they have rules, and then, as said, his subscriber told you, if you have a muscular breed, the breed is classified as guilty before trial. Instead of innocent until proven guilty, it's guilty until proven innocent then. Hoi hoi! And then you can prove the innocence of that dog. Hey jongen! Dag meneer!
Heerlijk hè? Lekker weertje.
Heel lekker weertje.
Oh,
Dagjes.
ja.
Hey!
Ja, hij is toch een beetje bang, hij is toch een beetje bang.
Ja?
Hebben ze het gebeten daarachter in de struiken daar?
Heeft hij iets gebeten?
Nee, ze hebben hem gebeten.
Maar waarom dan?
Nou, ik was met wandelen zo,
Ja?
aan de riem.
Ja?
En dan kwam mijn vrouw met een kinderwagen en er had ook een hond bezig. En die had hem ook veel vast. Ik liep er veel langs door. Een meter of 10 verder. Ik denk, wat is dat hier aan mijn riem?
Ja, dan
Had
heeft
die
hij al
hond zich
geholpen.
losgereten, ging die andere hond ook eraan.
Oh jee, dat is niks hè.
Dan heb ik hard moeten stampen om er vanaf te krijgen.
Ja,
Maar hij heeft er toch wat van overgehouden.
dat kan ja. Maar hij is toch lekker relaxed.
Ja, het is
voelen ook
zo'n
wel.
andere hond, maar hij is altijd voorzichtig. Hè?
Ja, hij is ook goed hè. Je kan beter voorzichtig zijn soms als je wat kleiner bent. Hij is wat minder voorzichtig.
Ja, maar hij is te bang hè.
Nee, niet snel.
En juist met die grote honden, die twee. Maar hij is ook een beetje bang.
Hij begint ook niet hoor, maar als een ander hond vervelend doet, kan hij ook altijd iets terugkrijgen.
Ja.
En dat is misschien ook wel goed hè. Als je ook klein bent moet je toch een beetje verdedigen.
Ja.
Dan blijft zo niks van je over.
Nee, daar zitten wij ook mee hè.
Ja, zo zijn de andere stukken van het leven.
Natuur.
Zeker. Lekker spelen. Alleen moet ik nu kijken of mijn hond mee kan kijken.
Ja, dan houd ik hem wel even wat.
Dankjewel. So today we will talk about the concept of dog sitting, dog walking, dog pensions and the likes. There are pros and cons to be told, but long story short, I would only do it if it's the only thing that you could do, and not as an option that I would like to exercise often. But it can be a lifesaver in some circumstances. Hoi hoi. Okay, so that being said, the concept is that someone else is taking care of your dog, either walking it for you or sitting it like a babysitter or children's sitter. so that you are free to do whatever you want also without the dog. Or sometimes also on holidays, then they have this solution to free you, and you are able to go at places where dogs are not allowed, or it's very costly to take a dog. But that being said, plain as sky, there are quite a lot of costs involved also with this dog pensions and the likes. So for example, you have to pay, of course, for taking care of your dog, but you also have to be vaccinated up to date, and also with things where you normally would not have any trouble with. For example, kennel cough is very often not a high risk of contamination if you only have one dog, for example, but then you have to. And there are also drawbacks. You can have the dog taken care of, but perhaps it doesn't like those other people as much as they like you, or those other people just see it as a job and do not do it in a professional way, just making as much money as possible instead of taking real good care of the dogs. Another thing is, if you need a dog walker, why would you take a dog? So if you need someone to walk the dog for you every time, this is a big part of dog ownership, and of course it will free up some time for you, but that's part of the solution in my opinion. So if you're not able to walk the dog, I wouldn't recommend getting one. Dog sitter, if it's not structural, could be a saver, where you need to go somewhere for a longer period than you estimated, and the dog sitter can take care of that. That's a good thing. Could also be someone in the family, someone you trust. Could also be in his or her own location, your house. And they can also sit the house perhaps for you, so that could be 2 flies in 1 strike, which is good. But there are also drawbacks, and especially in dog pensions, also dogs can fight with each other. Some dogs will be taxed harder if they are more dominant. You can get a litter that they are being mounted by another dog, so you should take real good care of that. And there are also a lot of places you can just take your dog if you take the precautions. And for example, Airbnb, you can also select on ability to take one pet with you. And especially the smaller dogs, like this Pet-a-Diddle Terrier, are often very easy to take with you, whereas bigger dogs are harder and also not always accepted. For example, they say you can take a small pet up to this and this size, and it would be hard with your German Shepherd to conform for that size restrictions. Nice sun, huh? Really nice. And also birds singing. And another thing is that when you take your dog with you, you also have another friend with you, and someone who can help you also in unknown situations. The thing is, dogs and most animals, but dogs is like the epitome of that, are there to help you, and they will know a lot faster than the average human when something is amiss, and they will alert you. And if you are alerted, it's a lot better to cope with the situation that is not expected. For example, someone tries to rob you, someone wants to intrude the place that you're staying, and also it is a deterrent. If they see someone walking with a dog, they see that there's a harder target than the average person without a dog. So that could also be helpful. Long story short, I think that these facilities can serve a purpose, but should only be used when needed. And also please do the calculation, because a dog in a pension, especially a few weeks, and all the vaccinations, you could perhaps at the same price or even less take the dog with you and have a good friendship companion with you all the time, and also have less stress for the dog. And also you have to bring the dog, take the dog again, takes also additional time that you might be saving, that you don't have to walk the dog. But the dog and the walking thereof is also very good for your health, and this is a nice way to explore the region that you're living at that moment. Another thing is that dog sitting depends of course on all the dogs and breeds. I've been very lucky with my dogs. Sometimes due to situations that were not anticipated before, we had to stay away for like 12 hours, 8 hours or more. So often between 8 and 12 hours, and the dogs went very well with it. They just relaxed, and they even kept up their excrements and their urine. And then when you come home, the first thing that you do is help the dog, walk the dog, so that it can release itself. And it also takes away a little bit of the anticipation stress, if present, because they get the attention that they were craving for that time. And I never had a big accident, or never that they demolished something in my absence. So I've been blessed, but I also think this is part of the bonding between the dog and you, and that they really see you as their companion, and their house, your house, as their lair, which they don't want to disrupt. Have a great day. Today we're going to talk about color selecting dogs. So you can see this as a means of show or exterior type of dogs, but you can also use this as a breeding tool. And we want to zoom in on the latter, but briefly touch upon the earlier. And the earlier is that, for example, if some colors are gaining traction because they are more popular, persons breed for that color. Very often these are mutations. For example, when they had black Labradors, they also had a mutation that provided the brown Labradors, and then those were bred. Similar cases can be made for blue dogs, that is a very popular color, and new things that add to that are merle colored dogs, which are also very popular, and more popular than the even colored ones. So the dilutions such as blue and brown as diluted, for example, also dogs that carry less pigmentation in the nose and other areas, are very often associated with a higher chances of diseases, because mutations in the color will probably also mean that there are mutations elsewhere, and also the genes that code for the color might have other bodily functions, which are then interrupted. And colors such as merle give a very attractive pattern, but are also highly associated with diseases. Especially if you are breeding two merles, you will have a very high chance of diseases or misformations, blindness, and all those other things that you really don't want to have. So it gives you some insight about exterior factors, and then we will zoom in to the breeding purpose. So color as a breeding tool. For I thought I want to show you the sun that's rising there. Very nice big sun. Perhaps we will see a little bit more later on. So, color as a breeding tool is nothing more than a tool in the box of phenotype. So to put it very briefly, the genes decide the genotype, and those genes together with environmental factors and expression of genes and mutations will result in the phenotype. So the phenotype is something that you can see, and the genotype are like the letters on the book, and the phenotype would then be the body of the book and the abbreviation that you can read on the outside, or the summary, so to say, that you can read on the outside of the book. And that's the same with dogs. And of course, the color of the coat can determine a lot of the parts that you can see from the outside. And then, that being said, for example, you have two dogs, both have a different color, and you breed them together, and you look at the pups, and the pups that have the phenotype of the one parent have a higher chance of acting like that one parent than the other. So sometimes you have a litter, one looks like the dad, one looks like the mother, and the other one might be sitting somewhere in between. But if you look at those extremities, you might have an insight of what type of dog you can expect. And that's what they do when they breed for color. But effectively they are breeding for phenotype. And that can also influence, for example, some of their character. So how the dog responds to certain situations, etc. And the willingness to work can also be part of the phenotype. So that being said, if that dog of color A that you use to sire a bitch of color B produces pups of color A and B together, and perhaps also C at the intermediate, the dogs of color A have the highest chance to have similar character traits as the dogs as compared to the other types. Because they are either more to the mother side, which is less good perhaps as to the father side, and also some are in between. But there should be some disclosures, because some colors will mask another color. For example, if your father has blue eyes, but your mother has green eyes, and completely green, not carrying blue, the resulting children will not show those blue eyes. They will just be carrying that blue eyes. So that will be a little bit harder to get back to those blue eyes again. The same can be said for coats. So for example, in the Patterdales, which is also known as the black dogs or black fell terriers, there's a reason for that, because that black is such a dominant color. They were also bred for this color because it is very good at not reflecting light, and also good at exchanging heat underground. So there are some beneficial traits with this color. But even that said, so for example, if you have a dog that is brown and you breed it with a black terrier, the chances are very high that if that black isn't carrying brown, that all the pups will be black, but also carrying that brown color now. So sometimes the color can be masked quite easily, and it's not that distributed like color of the father, color of the mother, and in between colors or something else. That's quite often the case. So even when you're breeding for color for a performance perspective, you should know this. You should know how those genes interact, and perhaps if you just pick the best ones, in my example, if you were aiming for that brown color because it was an exceptional sire, as I mentioned, very often if brown is a dilution, is not a good thing. You also have brown that is not a dilution, and very often you can see some indication that's not a dilution because the nose is still black pigmented. But that being said, then you perhaps have to line breed to find them again. So half brother to half sister, for example, breeding back on that one sire that you wanted to breed back on. And line breeding is also means to get more of that specific dog that you're line breeding on into your own line or your breeding program, so to say. Depends a little bit where you stand. But it also can result in a little bit of genetic lack of diversity. And it can even be said, if you're breeding, if you're more of a scatter breeding type, but you only keep those with a certain color, then you're also reducing genetic diversity. So for my purpose, I will not only focus on one color, even in performance breeding, but you could select those pups for a certain color, but still breed them with different colors from other lines, for example, to keep the genetic foundation solid and broad. And of course you can then again select those of the color that you like. This could be done, but I would rather do that than just breeding into your own line only a certain color, because it could also very well be that there's some heterosis, and because you only select one color you won't find it, because it could very well be that mixing the genes that you sometimes do to keep your line fresh and vital will result in an intermediate color, for example, or a color that's like brindle or whatever, not the color that you were aiming for, even in your performance program. And that could be a very good animal that's just dismissed based on the color, which is not a good thing in my opinion. So I think breeding for a type, where a color could play a role in, as I mentioned, it's part of the phenotype, but should not be the only thing that you look at. You should also look, or especially look at the other characteristics. For example, if you like a dog with a very athletic frame, because of the purpose that you are aiming for, or you want to have a dog that's very strong, then you can look for those qualities. And those qualities I like a lot more than just looking for the color, because it could be the case that your strong dog produces a dog of a certain color that doesn't have that strength as compared to the litter mates. And then is that something that you should aim for? And perhaps you can get it back in the next generation, of course, but it's hard breeding performance dogs, especially extreme performance dogs that are not only very fit but also have the drive to work and to work under harsh conditions or very high pressure is very hard. And even those that are breeding high performance litters and have made that breeding to an art, they still have a high percentage yield in their litters, not absolute. So not all of those litters pups will be as good. Some will and some might not. I think even if you have an extreme performance animal such as an American Pit Bull Terrier, if you have a yield of 30%, that's considered very good. Of course not in athletic ability or power, but extreme drive to work. It's not hard. It's not hard to how to say this. to see differently, because one person might look at it completely different than the other, and some people will tell you I have 100% quality dogs, and I would rather steer away from that than those guys and girls that tell you that they have a percentage of good dogs and also some misses, because that is life. It is not like you will always get the best. Nice words. Sometimes you will have a hit, sometimes you will have a miss, and you have to work around that. Have a great day.